This is snapshot mode. It offers 8 banks of 16 snapshots of all device parameters, and these can include the mixer and send parameters as well, which is settable in the options text. To demonstrate, I have a single track here with an instance of operator. Snapshots are based by the track name, so I named the track operator 1. If the track was left as MIDI 1 and another track were put in front of it, that track's name would change to MIDI 2 and the snapshots would no longer apply. So it's important to intentionally name the track for the snapshots a specific name. Also, note that snapshots are stored within the live set, so snapshots of a track and its devices cannot be dragged and dropped from one live set into another. To store a snapshot, you simply hold the snapshot mode button and press a pad. You'll see at the bottom of the screen here that the snapshot has successfully been created. You also notice that the pad triggered a sound at the same time that a snapshot was captured. All the pads trigger note C3. That way, the snapshots can be heard at the same time that they're captured. For performing with changing between snapshots in a clip that already has a sequence in it, the note play can be disabled with this button here. You'll see the color of the pads change to reflect that they're changing snapshots but no longer triggering the note. This first snap we captured is operator's most simple setting. It's one oscillator with a sine wave, no LFO modulation, no filtration, nothing, just a plain sine. Let's begin now by adding more snaps with a variety of various tones to them. There's endless approaches that could be taken to this. They could be structured or at random. One approach might be to start with a particular wave function like a sine and then create snaps in succession that feature different modulations of that particular waveform. Another approach could be to have each pad represent a different waveform and then each bank different modulations of that waveform. Let's start with that approach. So I'll go through here and select the next waveform. And now I'll do this in succession, for a few of them anyway. Now, let's go to a new page, a new bank. Jump to that first snapshot, and let's create some modulations for it. Start with the filter section, enable selected parameter control, and let's bring up the resonance, bring down the frequency, turn up the filter drive. Now let's capture that as a new snap. That didn't quite have as much variation from an original sine wave as I had hoped. So I'll bring in the shaper with another sine, turn up the shaper drive. And we'll capture that again on the same pad. This will demonstrate overwriting a snapshot, which is simply done by holding the snapshot button again and pressing that same pad. Snapshots overwrite in the same way that they're captured. So now we have our sine wave filtered and distorted. If we jump back to the first bank, you can hear the plain sine wave. Maybe on the pad below it, I'll add in the LFO. Set it to a sync. 40% is good. I think I'll put that at 1/16. Here, a 1-second attack. I think I'll increase the resonance on that snap. Bring down the filter some more. I think I'll add volume. So you can do this up to 128 times per track, and the snapshots can be called simultaneously. So if you're working on a set and you want to jump between different voices across multiple tracks at once, you can do that just by selecting them. We can also make versions of each of these snaps with effects sends. I have effects loaded on the return tracks here, so let's make these a bit more wet by adding them to some reverb and a bit of delay. Do the same for each of these. So you have the dry tones, the wet tones. Now, the Strata control surface can work great as a standalone system. It works even better when used with other equipment such as a MIDI keyboard. I'll show quickly how it can be used to then take these snapshots and play melodically. Start with this wet triangle. That's pretty nice. Or excuse me, it's the wet square wave. And now we'll go to drum rack chromatic. Drum rack chromatic is called so because the drum rack instrument in live uses chromatic input to channel the MIDI signals to the various drum slots. Because of this, It can be used for the drum rack, but it can also be used to play melodies. Here we have 8 banks, which are octaves. The 5th bank here is C3 or C4, depending on your reference octave. And here we have the C note. The C note. You could play a melody out this way and then change through your sounds after the fact, recording the automation of the changes into the clip. But when working with an external keyboard, we can leave the snapshot mode up on Strata and change between presets on the fly, like working with presets typically found on hybrid synthesizers, but with the power of instantly being able to write and rewrite those presets for any device found in live, or external instruments for that matter, or third-party VST instruments. The snapshot changing mode is particularly useful in voice heavy and sound prolific genres found in the varieties of electronic music. Let's take dubstep type voicing, for example, with varied LFO rates and waveforms. We'll start with that square and create wobbling and distorted voices at varying rates. Let's bring the attack all the way down there. Now working with these voices, turn the sound triggering off.